Hello everybody and welcome to your topic lesson today. So we are moving on. This term we are obviously learning all about how things change and why things change. So we are moving on from learning about different changes in texture. So yesterday obviously we learned all about the different changes in texture when baking. In particular baking bread like the Little Red Hen. So we're moving on now to the changes in our bodies throughout our life. So we are going to be learning this week all about growing up and what we can expect to happen when we grow up. Now you've actually already done some growing up because you haven't always been the size that you have been, and we're going to learn all about that today in this lesson. So let's see what we're going to start with. So we are learning about how we change as we grow older. So there's lots of different stages that we're going to go through in our life, and some of us already have gone through these stages. Actually, all of us have gone through some of them. So the first stage that you start as in your life is a baby. Now you were all babies once. Miss Nunn was a baby once. Your mummies and daddies were all babies once. Everybody in the world was a baby at some point. So you always start as a baby. So think about what a baby can do. I'm going to give you some examples. So I know that a baby cries. We all know that babies cry, so that's their way of being able to tell us when something is wrong. So they cry to tell us that something is wrong because they can't quite speak yet, so they cry. A baby can drink milk from a bottle. Normally when they're a very, very little baby, they need somebody to give them their milk from a bottle. They can't quite drink it themselves yet. A baby can lay on their back and look around with their eyes, looking at the world and seeing what's going on around them. So there's lots of things that a baby can do. So we just kind of touched upon this. So what does a baby need help to do? So they need help to drink their milk, their food. A baby can't use the toilet, so they wear nappies. Not all babies wear nappies, some children wear nappies too, but you always start in a nappy because you haven't quite learnt to use the toilet yet. So they need help to have their nappy changed. They mostly need help to go to sleep as well. Sometimes they might need rocking to sleep because not all babies can just fall asleep on their own. So there's lots of things that a baby needs help to do. So with your grown up, I want you to see, can you think of anything else that a baby can do? Or can you think of anything else that a baby might need help to do? Have a little think about that and see if you can think of any other ideas. So once you have been a baby, you then grow into a toddler. I wonder if any of you have heard this word before. It's quite a funny word, isn't it? So a toddler is beginning to learn to walk. Can you think of any other things that a toddler might be learning to do? So in this picture, we can see that this toddler is learning to kick a ball. So I can give you some examples. So a toddler might be learning to feed themselves. So obviously a baby can't feed themselves. That's something that they need help with. But as you go into a toddler, as a baby turns into a toddler, they might learn to feed themselves. They might be learning to walk. Like we just said, a toddler is beginning to learn to walk. So they're really starting to do more things for themselves. So toddlers start to do more for themselves without their mum or dad helping. So they're trying to do more things for themselves now as they get older. After you've been a toddler, you then turn into a child, which is what you guys are now. So you're all children. So you're a child. So all children in this country have to go to school. So at the moment, all of you guys are in nursery. You're in F1, so you're in nursery. So you are in school, but you are in the nursery class of the school. So when you're a little bit bigger, you're going to be going to reception, to F2, which is also school. So you'll move on from nursery and you'll go into a bigger class. This is normally when you're 4 years old. So when you are nearly turning 5, that is when you start to go to school. Okay. So Can you think of anything that children get better at as they get older? So I know that some children in F1 at the moment are learning to ride their bike or learning to ride their scooter, which they couldn't do when they were a baby. So that's something that they've got better at doing. I know that lots of children in F1 at the moment are working really hard to be independent. So trying to get themselves dressed, learning to use the toilet on their own, learning to build models out of building bricks. So can you think of anything else that you've got better at now you are a child? So you're not a baby anymore, you're not a toddler anymore. Can you think of anything that you've got better at now you're a child? So after you're a child, you turn into a teenager. Now, those of you that have got older brothers and sisters, you might be familiar with this. So it's called a teenager. So a teenager is anybody that is aged 13 to 19. So they're quite big numbers. You're nowhere near that age yet. So when you turn 13 years old, 1 in 3, you turn into a teenager. So some of you might have older brothers and sisters that are teenagers. So if they're aged 13, then they are a teenager. So lots of different changes start to happen to your body when you become a teenager. So most of all, you grow much taller. Your feet might grow bigger. You have to start wearing bigger clothes. Sometimes this is the age when teenagers are allowed to have their own phone, their own mobile phone. So lots of things start to change in their life when they become a teenager because they're getting a lot older then. So teenagers normally go to secondary school. So like at the moment, we are in nursery. Then when you go to school in F2, you will be in primary school. And you will stay in primary school until you are 10 or 11 years old. Then you will go to secondary school. And that's where teenagers go. So that's big school, very, very big school. So once you've been a teenager, you then turn into an adult. So that's where Miss Nunn is at the moment. Miss Nunn is an adult, and lots of your mummies and daddies are also adults, or you might call them grown-ups. Miss Nunn often calls them grown-ups, but the real word is an adult. So when a person becomes an adult, they usually start to go to work. So Miss Nunn is a teacher. So when I go to work, I come to school and I teach all the children. That is my job. I wonder if any of you know why adults need to have a job. Some of your mummies and daddies might have already told you this. So the reason that adults need to have a job is to earn money. And money can buy us lots of nice things, like it can afford to live in a house. It can help us to afford yummy food, or lovely toys, or a bike. So when you go to work, you earn money, and that helps you to pay for things. So what jobs do the adults in your family do? So maybe you could ask your grown-up this. What do you do for a job? So like I just said, Miss Nunn is a teacher. So I wonder what your mummies and daddies do for a job to earn them money. Maybe you could ask them. This is interesting. What job might you like to do when you grow up? So you can start having a little think about this, because later in the week we are going to be doing an activity on this. So just start having a little think about that. Think about when you are an adult, what job might you like to do? So once you have been an adult, you then turn into an elderly person. So these people are quite old now. So when people get older, they eventually stop working. Can you think of any reasons why elderly people need to stop working? Maybe you could have a little think about that, see if you know any reasons why. You might already be familiar with this if your nannies and granddads or grandmas and grandpas may not work anymore. Because as their bodies get older, they need to start giving their bodies some rest. Because their bodies can't quite do what they always used to do, because their bones are getting older and a bit more fragile. So they have to make sure that they get lots of rest, so they might stop working. some older people do still work. So what could some elderly people do in their free time? So I know that my nanny is elderly and she likes to do gardening. So she doesn't go to work anymore. She's stopped working now, but she likes to spend lots of time in her garden. So can you think of any elderly people in your life and what they like to do if they don't go to work anymore? Or do they still have a job? They might do. There's lots of things that you can do to help elderly people. I know that sometimes my nanny, she struggles to get out to the shops. So I might go and do her food shopping for her. I might pop over there in my car, might go to the shop to get her food, and then I take it to her house while she's happy enjoying her garden. So have you ever done anything to help an elderly person, like your nannies or granddads? So that is all the different stages of the life cycle. So just to remind us, I'm going to go back to the top. We have got, so we start as a baby, like this. And then once we're a baby, we turn into a toddler. So we start to get bigger and we start to walk and learn to talk. After a toddler, you become a child, which is what you guys are now. You might go to nursery or preschool. After you're a child, you become a teenager. So that's when you go to secondary school. You might be able to start going out and playing with your friends without a grown-up there. After you're a teenager, you become an adult. So like Miss Nunn and like your mummies and daddies, you become an adult and you get a job and you go to work. And then after you're an adult, you become an elderly person. So like your nannies and your granddads or your grandmas and your grandpas, you become elderly. And then you might not go to work anymore. So this is all the different stages of the life cycle. So you guys now are a child. So after you're a child, when you turn 13 years old, you will be a teenager. But you're going to be a child for quite a lot longer yet. And before you were a child, you were a toddler. And before that, you were a baby. So have a little think about all the different things that you have already learned in your life and how you have grown already. Can you remember anything from when you were a baby? I can't. That was a super long time ago. I can't remember anything from when I was a baby, but I can remember going to nursery. So I have some memories of when I was a child, because I was a child like you guys once, and I went to nursery too. And then I was a teenager, and now I'm an adult. Maybe you could ask your grown-up in your house some stories about when they were a teenager or when they were a child, and see what they can tell you about that. So your next activity today is a sequencing activity. So you're going to need to know the order of these in order to complete that activity. So we've got baby, toddler, child, teenager, adult and elderly. So you need to remember that order, what you grow into. Remember the words for them because you're going to need to know that for activity number 2 today. So I hope you enjoyed our lesson on growing up. I know I enjoyed teaching you about it. Don't worry if you don't quite understand it yet, because we've got the rest of the week to learn a bit more about how our bodies grow and change as we get older. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your activities for today, and I look forward to seeing you for your next lessons tomorrow. Bye-bye.